Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the session, Friend or Foe, Native Plant or Exotic Lookalike. Thank you for coming back for the start of our afternoon session. I'm Ashley Vandefort and I'll be the moderator for the session. As a reminder, your chat button is at the bottom of the page. If you click on that and type in a question, we can hold the questions till the end for Sarah. And also, if you want to give your reaction at the end, also we have the thumbs up and applaud button at the bottom. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Sarah Boles. Sarah is a Wisconsin Master Naturalist with a formal background in ornamental horticulture. She completed the certified training course, Lakeshore Habitat Restoration Training for Professionals through UWExtension Lakes and Wisconsin Lakes. Since the year 2000, she operated Northern Native Plantscapes, working on numerous properties in Bayfield, Ashland, Sawyer, and Douglas counties, designing shoreline restoration. She also worked with rain gardens, native meadows, home landscapes using native plants. Sorry, my introduction was cut off a little bit there, but with that, I will introduce Sarah. You may take the floor, and if you want, you can turn on your video right now.
Okay, can you see me?
We can hear you and see you.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. And I am only gonna leave this video on of my face for right now to say hello to everybody. And then I'm going to turn my video off because you don't need to see me. Hopefully you will be paying attention to the presentation that I put together. This is so strange. Again, here we are Zooming. And I would love to see everyone that is participating and enjoy some social time with you all afterwards where we can chat and ask more questions and share information. So hopefully next year that will happen. But I am grateful for the opportunity and that we have this format to be able to use now to share our information. And so, okay. I am going to turn off my video and just have my shared screen of my presentation. So I'm going to do that and stop video. Okay, so this is Friend or Foe, Native Plant or Exotic Lookalike. And the images you see, of course, the blue iris versicolor, our native iris, and the yellow iris, which is one that is common in the northern part of our state that you may have on your lakeshore and would not know on inspection if you have the native or the exotic until really it starts to bloom. But what we're going to, or how I'm going to present this is, it's basically a mini botany course on plant identification, which of course does not lend itself to a virtual platform. I want to provide you with current resources that will assist you in identifying and managing these invasive weedy plants. Since this conference is focused on Northwest Wisconsin, I'm targeting those weedy species that have been found in the Northwest part of the state. However, these links and the resources provided include all of Wisconsin, no matter where you're at. Plants are moving targets. They're opportunists. So take a look at the websites that I'll be showing you to learn tips on location, identification, control measures, and what may be coming your way. There's also new research on nativars, native cultivar, cultivated native plants. and how these plants interact with native insect pollinators. There are handouts that the handout of this presentation is being provided with these links and notes so that you'll be able to access them after the presentation. So of course, definitions, what are we talking about? A native plant, a plant that's indigenous to North America. It's been here. We did not, bring it from other areas in the world. What's an exotic plant? One that's not indigenous. And most of the trees, shrubs, and vines that are exotic here originated in Asia. Most of the herbaceous plants that are the exotic ones originated in Europe. And we'll talk a little bit about that. How did they get here? Further into the program. Then as you go from exotic into invasive, well, an invasive one is the exotic that is capable of rapid spread, and it causes negative ecological impacts. So first of all, before we get into exotic plant identification, it's a good idea to research and learn the native plant communities and habitats within your area, past and present. The Wisconsin DNR has published this extensive guide. This is not a field guide in plant identification. However, you will find such a wealth of information that it will help you understand the ecological importance of the land that you are interested in. So this is my first link that I'm going to go to transition to this website to show you this guide. And you pull it up, and it's really a fabulous publication. I'm just going to scroll down to the table of contents, and you can find wherever you are in the state, northern forests, the northern forest types, shrub communities, marshes, prairies, sedges, community complex aquatic features. You look at their map and you then would go to your area, Superior Coastal Plain. Are you in the Northwest Lowlands, the Northwest Sands, the North Central Forest? And you'll find all the information of the plant communities that are there, the native plant communities. It'll give you so much great information, and it's really interesting from a historical perspective. So, the history of the land that you're on has been home to so many others before you became the current steward. It's been inhabited by generations by indigenous peoples. And then European settlers came, and they brought with them plants for food, for medicine, and to bring a bit of their family history with them. Prior activities on the land, logging, farming, and early tourism have all impacted the landscape. This is an image of Lake Woods Resort on Lake Namakogon in the early days. It's gone through many different changes. Many people have lived on this site, and there's old roses, there's, all kinds of historical little plants, communities, or shrubs that one would find from the previous owners. Is the lake that you're on part of a flowage? How has ordinary high water mark fluctuated over the years? Having this historic information can help you understand what is happening now with the aquatic and the nearshore vegetation. This is a lake map of Lake Namakagon, where I live. I live just off of Garden Lake. So it's good to also understand what is the current adjacent land use and vegetation. Has there been increased development resulting in changes on the land? Runoff from impervious surfaces, new landscaping around homes with potential for introducing exotic plants, or a higher percentage of boating traffic from out of the area that can lead to the introduction of aquatic invasive plants. And now, what's all the fuss about this? Why do we care about these weedy exotic plants? There is a list of plants many of you are likely to be aware of that is on the NR 40 Wisconsin invasive species rule. There have been additions to this list, and the link I'm going to take you to is their color fact sheet. And we have interest in this and we care about this because of the decline of the native species due to the aggressiveness of all these exotics. And when you think about the time and effort and, cost that goes into trying to control some of these invasives, it's worth your time and effort to learn which ones are the ones that you should really be concerned about. This is the link to the NR 40 fact sheet that has the glossy photos. You've probably seen this at other lake conferences because there's many of familiar faces here. But they're colored photos and just a quick reference guide. You don't have to be a botanist or have a field guide. It's just a really quick, great reference for your information. Just here we've got in the middle the white bedstraw gallium. It's a very commonly sold gallium sweet woodruff is a garden variety that is sold that looks very much like we have a native woodland gallium. Of course, the Russian knapweed, purple knapweed. So all of these, the regulated invasive plants for your knowledge that you should not be planting these, or if you have them, you should eliminate them. If you're going to be out and doing this work, if you're interested in, being a monitor and getting involved with Wisconsin DNR's Weed Watch program, or further down the line, the UW-Madison's Know Your Foe First Alert, you want to be prepared when you go out in the field. Take a camera with you, have your phone so you can get pictures of the plant in question. Have a ruler, you need to have a sense of scale of the size of the plant. A hand lens so that you can look at closer inspection on the different parts of the plant. Notebooks and pencils, the old-fashioned notebooks and pencils, field guides, baggies or bags for collecting samples. You want to wear gloves because some of these plants exude a sap that can cause dermatitis. You want to record the exact location of where you're observing the species with a GPS. And then you send your photos, samples, or report your findings to the Wisconsin DNR. So you go to the Wisconsin DNR's website. This is their link, and brings you to this great page where you can report invasive species, or what you think you might have as an invasive weedy species, and see if it has been reported If it is one that you should be concerned about. So you could just scroll through this page and find out the forms to fill out. These are aquatic shoreline. Here's terrestrial plants. So invasive plant report form, and how to take samples and report these and get answers to your questions as well. If you have a suspected invasive plant. Now you have a course, I would hope you'll have or begin to have a library, as well as all this fancy digital stuff. We have field guides. There are many great field guides out there. However, when you choose a field guide, keep it as local, as regional as possible. You also want to note in the field guide if the author indicates whether it is indeed a native or an exotic species. Because because a field guide might give you the identification of a plant, it won't tell you if it is a native or an exotic. The invasive plants of the upper Midwest and the wildflowers of Wisconsin have tips on control methods, as well as the wildflowers of Wisconsin has maps on their pages of the in the identification guide of where these plants are found within the state. And then of course there are apps. You can take pictures with your phone of the plant in question and get identification. I use iNaturalist. It's one that's vetted by botanists and other reliable sources. And it's fun to kind of practice with that. Take a picture of something you know and see what comes up. And that way it gives you a little more confidence that, oh yeah, this is a good app. This is reliable. I'm finding out the answers that to my questions. And then we have the exotics now or to the native species. So the friend or foe. And this is a short list of the exotic weedy species that have native lookalikes that have been mapped within our northwestern region. The links provided are 2 regional links along with information on identification. There are also maps that indicate where these species have been found. Not all lists include all the plants, so it's necessary to look at different sources of information. The initials after the plant indicate which website has it listed. WIFL stands for Wisflora, which is the herbarium at UW-Madison. And UWGB stands for University of Green Bay List of Invasive Plants in Wisconsin. So here's our short list. Norway maple is the exotic, which could be confused with our sugar maple native. Asian bush honeysuckle, which it looks very similar to our native honeysuckles. Multiflora rose, native roses. Oriental bittersweet, American bittersweet. Reed canary grass to our blue joint, yellow iris to blue flag. And this again is the short list, but I'll show you further along other species, depending on where you are in the state. But first, so then if you, whoops, I gotta go back. If you go first to the Wisflora herbarium, and we're not botanists, right? So I'm gonna put in first, I'm just gonna call my, I'm gonna put in sugar maple and see what happens. See if what I have is a sugar maple. Okay, sugar maple, Acer saccharum. Okay, it shows me sugar maples, the identification characteristics, and it has an interactive map of where it's found. I'm in Bayfield County. Well, it just pulls up that one. That's not. Other links. I'm going to go back to the home page and put in, oops, Norway maple. Acer plantainoides. Okay, gives me information on that one. Invasive, eradicate, shows where it's been found. Let's see if I thought this would, but it's not taking me to the exact place. So you can go to the, go to UW Green Bay. And here they have a list of the invasive plants of Wisconsin. I'm scrolling down and I'm going to go to, let's see, honeysuckle. Tatarian honeysuckle. Where is it at? Again, it shows me a map. Gives me identification characteristics. If I go to bush honeysuckle, showy bush honeysuckle, the other exotic honeysuckles. Many of these would be on the other lists from the Wisconsin DNR of exotic invaders. Let's see, what other one? Well, I'm going to keep going to the next slide. This guide, the one that is the mistaken identity, which is published by the Delaware Land Department. It is the best field guide that I've been able to find on exotics and native lookalikes. I tried to contact the authors to inquire about purchasing the guidebook, but they didn't respond to me. But again, here is the link. And it is for the mid-Atlantic states, but we have many of the same players here. So here we've got Norway maple versus sugar maple, Japanese tree, well, not that one, but the Asian bush honeysuckles, multiflora roses, Japanese honeysuckles, bittersweet, Japanese stilt grass, reed canary grass. The best part about this guidebook is that it really has a key. It has great photos, and I'm just scrolling through this to get to the first page. So your Norway maple. You scroll through it, it gives you botanical terminology, identification tips, and then it shows you the native sugar maple. And then here's that, I'm gonna keep going. Devil's walking stick, mulberry, invasive mulberry, to the native red mulberry. not tree of heaven. Again, depending on where you are, you might have some of these. Here's natives. That was the tree of heaven. Invasive Asian bush honeysuckles. Lots of, the identification characteristics, ID tips. The native bush honeysuckle, how you can identify that one. So this is just such a great guide. It would be great to be able to take it out in the field with you. If it's 68 pages, so one could print it out. But you can also, again, go on their, follow this link to their page here to be able to have the identification characteristics. I wish we had something this thorough for our area. What we do have, our field guide to terrestrial invasive plants in Wisconsin is 20 years old. You research or reference the list, invasive species, and our 40 list for the updated ones, but this is a guidebook that is available. Many of you probably have seen this again at various conferences. You can order this one through Wisconsin DNR. And it is a good pocket guide to be able to carry with you on your property for identification purposes. Again, the buckthorns go to, there's the tree of heaven, honeysuckles. So it's a good identification guide. And again, it is available, but you have to keep going to the updated list again, because as we were talking about, these plants are moving, they're moving northward. Here's with the climate change connection, right? Plants are adapting, they're moving. The floods that we had brought debris, silt, sand, soil, plants from one area to the next area. So some plants are showing up in places that they weren't before, just because of the climate activities we've been seeing. This website, the Wisconsin First Alert, is like one of the best ones that I found on invasive plant identification, with videos, fact sheets, and training opportunities. And you can send pictures to them and they will respond to you right away, reporting your findings. This is a great website. UW-Madison's Wisconsin First Detector. So if you want to report one, here over on the right, report invasive species, access fact sheets. So this has the list on it where there's fact sheets and there's also videos to help you with your identification. Just, as a quick introduction, I'm just going to show you the one on the thistle, because there are native thistles. Here you can look at a video if that is the way that you learn better. These are really well done mostly. And this is what you would see.
The audio is not coming through for you, Sarah.
I'm sorry?
The audio is not coming through.
Did you say the audio?
If you do want the audio to come through, when you click share screen, you have to click a little box on the lower left that says share computer sound. And you can redo the screen share right now if you want, and it won't be a problem. So if you want the audio to come through, just click the share screen button again on the bottom, and you'll just need to click that little checkbox on the lower left.
Well, I won't. It'll confuse me. I won't do that.
Okay.
I'll go back. Oh, sorry, folks. There, I didn't know that wasn't going to work. So I'll just show. Can you hear me though? Talking?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So then I'll just. So the videos I didn't know about sharing the audio, but if you just go to their fact sheets or on your home screen, if you use this website, look at the videos. They're really well done and really helpful with identifying characteristics. Or if you here's Tansy, just click on their fact sheet. I mean, it's all of them very well done. Gives you control measures, similar species, how to control them. If you use chemicals, what chemicals to control. And so it just lots of, the tools, gives you tools to use to be able to identify, control these species. Quackgrass, grasses sometimes are really hard to differentiate for the non-botanist. But again, if you have the tools that you need, you wouldn't be confusing your these identification guides. You wouldn't be confusing our native grasses with the exotic, in this case, agricultural grasses. So this, their website is just so chock full of great information, and they have their map too that shows where plants are being found up to date currently. So again, as these plants move from one area in the state to another, so we didn't know that stilt grass, or one of the newer players in this, is making its way north, or which ones you can find out. Type in, look for the species that's in question, and see if it has been documented in your area. It's just phenomenal, the amount of information that is on their website, and that you can be involved in. Get involved, it says, and they give you training. It's really fabulous. So I encourage you all to check them out. Now to the nativar. The nativars. What is a nativar? This is a definition that is used by or given by wild ones, natural landscapers, that it's a cultivar of a native species, artificially selected from natural variation found in species. They are vegetatively propagated, which means they no longer participate in the natural reproduction patterns that maintain genetic diversity. They're selected for growth habit, floral color, disease resistance, which is all, really for our benefit. They're highly hybridized and marketed in the nursery trade. So they are lacking in many of the traits that are necessary for other life forms to be able to utilize. And we're talking about wildlife. As research increasingly shows, native plants are a key to creating a wildlife-friendly garden. I'm reading this. By definition, a native plant or trait species occurs naturally in a given location or region. A nativar is sometimes a natural variant that has been found in the wild and brought into cultivation, but often it has been developed by a plant breeder and would never be found in nature. In the words of Doug Tallamy, a University of Delaware entomologist and author of Bringing Nature Home, the proliferation of nativars demonstrates the extent to which the nursery trade is still stuck on the idea of plants as enhanced decoration rather than as essential to wildlife. And I highly recommend, again, looking into Doug Tallamy's work. Besides Bringing Nature Home, he has a new publication on oaks that's called Quercus. And my goodness, the relationship between plants and insects and all life, other life forms, which sustains our life, is so important. Here is the article in the from National Wildlife that talks more in depth, or addresses more in depth, the native, or not so much, nativars. Flashy nativars may look pretty, but are they good for wildlife? And you know, I am a gardener. I am a naturalist. I am a budding ecologist. I work in many ornamental gardens. And there's a place for ornamentals, but there is a place for us to keep and maintain and enhance and protect our native species, because it's about life, about you know, food for the insects, the birds, the butterflies, the bees, the caterpillars. So I know I'm speaking to the choir here, most likely, but it does help us to learn more so that we can become advocates and hopefully be able to express why the importance of using native plants as opposed to cultivated plants is so important. Our ornamental shrubs, for instance, the 9-barks, we have beautiful native 9-bark, Physocarpus. There are so many cultivars now of 9-bark that are sold. You know, the flowers, the flowers of these cultivated plants still attract pollinators. However, research has shown that the leaf color, the red leaf color, adds this chemical anthocyanins, which is a feeding deterrent for leaf-feeding insects. You know, so that means that we don't have these caterpillars feeding on our shrubs. Well, the caterpillars are such important food for birds. So, you know, they've developed this so that it's not edible for the caterpillars. Echinaceas, you know, look at how beautiful all the colors are. Again, boy, you go to the garden centers and you are just, you know, inundated. There's so many of these varieties now out there. And, you know, again, they can have their place in a cultivated garden. And you will see bees and butterflies on these flowers, but the pollen and the nectar is not always accessible because their flower structures have been changed. So please include the native species. And of course, I mean, most importantly for our audience here in shoreline restoration projects, if you are accepting grant monies provided by the UWExtension or the DNR Healthy Lakes program, you are required to use native plants, not the cultivars. And it says in the Shoreline Habitat Guide that, and this is the quote from there, that plants shall be selected from species lists of plant communities that are native to the county or region. So not to use the cultivars of the native plants. Okay, so this is my yard. And you will see in this that there are some non-natives. There's daisies, there are some of the cone flowers. You kind of, you know, I am not a purist. I am not going to fight the daisies. I am not going to fight some of the lesser exotic or the lesser invasive exotic plants that are not, you know, if they're not taking over the a place for my natives, for the natives. So you have to put your energy into the where you can be most effective. And our yard here, our front of our house, is 10 years in the making. You know, we had to battle a lot of the exotic grasses. And, you know, we're always on the lookout for any unwelcome newcomers that might show up. So it's never ending. And as like in our, we have a rain garden type area. It's in the beginning of the video. I don't know if it's see it very well, but and we planted blue flag iris and the base of it in the wetland. And here a few years ago, yellow iris showed up. Well, where did that come from? I didn't plant it, but ducks visit our pond. The pond is actually downslope from this view here. But yellow irises showed up and they must have come in with the ducks. So, you know, you just never know. You just gotta, again, be on the lookout. And hopefully I've given you some tools that you'll be able to use for identification purposes, and certainly for links to help you get answers by professionals that can identify the plants in question for you, and guide you in the control measures necessary so that you're being effective. So with that, that's my last slide.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for the presentation. Everyone is welcome to use the reactions button to applaud or give thumbs up. We have about 15 minutes left over for questions, so definitely anyone can chime in with their questions in the chat box. And Sarah, I just love that video of your plantings around your house. That is just beautiful.
Right now it's looking, it's not, you know, it's just starting to come into color, but there's been a lot of activity, you know, from spring, early green up, from the sedges starting to some lupins and, you know, down in the wet areas, the irises. I must say right now in Bayfield County, we're in a red flag warning. We are in high fire alert. It's in the middle of June. That is almost unheard of. It is so dry. My native roof here that's in the background was starting to be in full columbine bloom. And then it got that 90 degrees, you know, and plus a few weeks ago, and everything shriveled up. Right now there's heuchera, or the alum root is back in, coming back in strong. And some things are starting to come around again. But again, our native species, they'll adapt. We'll see who thrives, who survives. And the others, you may think they're gone, but we'll get some rain, or next year things will be different. It's not in our control, but these plants are adaptable, as we know. So we just have to watch and see what happens.
Yeah. So I also want to add in that in the chat, I put all the links that Sarah had, and there's also a handout on the conference page that is a PDF of her PowerPoint presentation along with all of her notes, and all of the links are available there also. So it looks like we have some questions rolling in here. So I have a question from Jaden. Where can I find these plants? We are having trouble growing them in sand near Lakeshore. So should we amend the soil or just plant as is?
Well, for one thing, I don't know where you're located at, if you're looking for plant material, but just generally, I would say that the DNR has a list of native plant nurseries. And so you would look for a nursery that is closest to you.
We have a comment sheet from Hayward,
Round
okay. Lake.
Oh, okay. So in our area, we have actually a native plant nursery in Barnes and called M&M. There's also a grower or a farm subsidiary of Prairie Restoration called Boreal Natives. That's outside of Duluth. And there is a native plant, Hanson's Garden Village in Rhinelander, is another closer regional resource. And as far as amending your soil goes, you work with the soil that you have. That's the key. You have to, and that's what, when I was alluding to, know, the what's growing in your area on adjacent land to where you are, or areas on your property that have not been disturbed. What's the forest type? Where it has been undisturbed, so that you can mimic the native plant community. And there are, workhorse species. There's ones that you can introduce right away that are very adaptable, and it just depends on, it's a process. It's always a process, but it's specific to your site. Work with the soils you have.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for that, Sarah. And then I have another comment on here from Diane for you to clarify invasive versus exotic for everyone.
Okay, so invasive versus exotic. So an exotic plant, by my definition, again, is a plant that is not indigenous or has its roots here in North America or the Great Lakes region where you're at. So, and that's a native plant. So an exotic one is one that was brought here, usually by humans, for whatever purposes, food, medicine, agriculture, or just because it's a plant that they have memories from. So those are an exotic plant. And then if you get into from there, an exotic plant to invasive, invasive is a highly aggressive plant that can overtake an area. And in our case, we're talking about exotic invasives that take over the niches that would be filled by native plants. Now, there are native plants that are also that can also be called invasive in a sense, because they are so highly effective. Their strategy is to take over an area where they live and become dominant. So it's a constant battle out there. Does that answer the question?
I think that covers it. Thank you, Sarah. Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat box.
Okay.
So that I'll say thank you very much for the presentation. Oh, I got a comment. Great talk, very informative from Diane there.
Oh, thanks.
So,
You know, I do want to say, I hope people can understand to use the links and to use the resources, because again, it's you know, it's a study. It's you need to be able to use these identifying characteristics and, you know, see what's coming down the pike. So I truly hope this was helpful. So thank you.